Hey everybody, Wayne here. In today's overview review, I'm taking a look at Warfighter Vietnam, or more specifically, Warfighter, the Vietnam War Special Forces card game, designed by Kevin Verssen and published by DVG. Warfighter Vietnam is the latest game in the Warfighter series of cooperative and solitaire card-based wargames. In Warfighter Vietnam, you will pick a mission from a variety of mission types. You will build out a team of soldiers, equip them with weapons and gear, and work your way through various locations until you reach the objective. Also in Warfighter Vietnam, there is a campaign system, which first appeared in Warfighter Fantasy. It allows you to pick a campaign and run your soldiers through a series of missions dealing with gains and losses along the way. There's more to the missions than what I've said already, and we'll dive into that later during my explanation of the game. Let's do a quick overview. I have a complete playthrough of a holding action mission for an in-depth look at the game. I'll cover my pros and cons, and I'll end with my final thoughts. All right, let's get on to the table. All right, so Warfighter Vietnam is a card game played out on this tactical display board. You start off by selecting a region and its appropriate group of hostiles. Now, the base set just has the Vietnam region and Vietnam set of hostiles. However, I believe there's Quezon, at very least, as expansions currently released. So there are potentially other areas. Just keep in mind with the base set, you're just going to have the one type of region and hostiles. Then you're going to take the deck of action cards, and is quite a pile, quite a deck of cards. You're going to shuffle them up. These action cards are going to be what your player soldiers are going to be drawing from and playing. So action cards are going to do things like give you special actions, give you bonuses, bonuses to attack, bonuses to engage or find enemy hostiles, bonuses to move. There's just all kinds of different things that the action cards are going to do for you. For example, just run through a couple. Trade in here. You can pay 1 body count to gain 4 experience points. Body counts are earned by defeating hostiles. Every time you inflict a KIA, which is basically inflicting a hit on a hostile card, you're going to get a body count. You're going to want to put some in this box here, which goes towards victory during your missions. But you can also keep some, hold some back, keep them with your soldiers, which then you can use them. In here, then you gain 4 experience points. XPs, some soldiers start with them, but you gain them also by defeating hostiles. Those XPs can then be spent, generally speaking, to upgun to improve some cards. Here is another card, Take Cover. Pay 1 XP, so say you have that experience, you can pay that to play this card. Play out after a hostile performs an attack against you, or, see the number here in parentheses, any soldier. That is an upgun. You can spend that 1 experience point, so besides this cost, right? So another experience point to then upgun. So instead of just the player soldier who has this card in his hand, any soldier out of your whole group of soldiers could cancel the attack. Thread the Needle, play when you, or if you upgun any soldier, declare an attack. Treat a screen target as unscreened. So again, there's just so many different things. There's a huge stack of them. I'm not going to run through all of them. All right, so after you have shuffled up your action deck and gotten the action cards ready, you're going to select the mission and objective cards, then a possible situation card. So mission and objective. So the game, again, this is all the base game, as my review is the base game. You actually have 8 mission cards, so quite a variety and quite a group of missions. So you're going to have 3, 4, 5. 5 of them are sort of general, call them search and destroy missions. A mission card is going to have its title for what it's worth. There's the entrance cost, that's for that actual location itself. The number here with the little magnifying glass, that's searching. If you're at that location and you conduct a search, you can try to find enemy hostiles. And then within the card here for the mission, it's going to tell you the information you need to know to set up for the mission. That's how many resources you have to spend, RPs. So that's what you will spend to pick your player soldiers, to pick your team, and then any extra equipment you want to purchase. Time, so on the mission timer, what time will be put there. Objective location, that'll be the column number over. So the mission card obviously goes right here. That counts as 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case, for this card, 5, location number 5, so it'd be right here. And that is where you would put the objective card. And there are a whole bunch of objective cards as well. possibly related, possibly randomized, just depends on the type of mission you have. Any loadout bonus or negative, in this case, -3 to loadout. Loadout is how much equipment your player soldiers can carry. And then body count, that is the number of hostiles you need to eliminate. Remember, it goes in this body count here over the course of a mission. Then any special information you need to know for that particular mission. Like I said, there are a variety of them. 5 of them are going to be kind of just search and destroy, moving through locations and defeating enemies. There are also special missions. I did a video playthrough of the Gimme Shelter, which is the holding action mission, which is actually like a hold the line tower defense style mission. But there's also rescue mission and an escort mission as well. So there is a nice little variety within the core box itself. Like I mentioned, besides the mission cards, which you're going to set one up, you're also going to have objective cards, whether it is a special type of mission that maybe you have to use that objective. So for instance, if you are using the holding action mission, Gimme Shelter, you have House of the Rising Sun, holding action, that is automatically going to be part of that. Otherwise, it may be a random one that you're drawing, and then you're going to have different things you're looking for within that objective, depending on where it is located. After you've selected your mission and your objectives, you're going to select and equip your soldiers. So, with that resource cost, you're going to be purchasing your soldiers out of a decent little stack of them here. You have player soldiers. Player soldiers are the ones that are going to have a hand of action cards. Players, you need at least one on your team because you need those action cards. So in my playthrough, and these are the same player soldiers and actual soldiers, one player soldier and then 2 others, not player soldiers, that I had in my video playthrough. So I have Niederlander, who is a player soldier. So we will have a deck of cards, or excuse me, a hand of action cards based on his health. He has special abilities, comes with a weapon, M16 machine gun. That's his loadout, the amount of equipment he can carry, and then his hand-to-hand, his cover, so when you're attacking him, and his movement. In the holding action mission, I was not trying to move because I was trying to defend the objective. But traditionally, if you're moving location to location, you want a higher movement better. And top right is his resource cost. So when I mentioned resource points, that's how much it costs to purchase him. But he does come with all of this for free. You're building out your squad of soldiers, your team, right? So again, I mentioned player soldiers, which are the ones that have action cards that cost the most, though. Then you're going to have team soldiers. Those are ones that are the closest to a player soldier, but as it says here, they do not have any action cards. And then you have things like non-player soldiers, may come with equipment and skills, but it's all kind of built in. And then a squad soldier, which they don't even have any extra equipment. They do have extra skills, no extra equipment though. Otherwise, it's just their attacks are built in to the card itself. So instead of being on the weapon, it's built into the card. After you have selected and equipped your soldiers, you have them ready for your mission. You're going to want to outfit them according to what type of mission you're on. Close range, long range, you're going to be moving a lot, or you're going to be staying in one area. You're going to want to adjust your team based on those needs. You're going to then put them probably in the mission spot based on with these location counters here, or you're going to, depending on the mission, they may be at the objective, they may be somewhere else. You're then going to deal your action cards according to any player soldiers and health. Each player soldier, remember, gets a hand of action cards based on their health. With the soldiers out on the mission card, you're going to set up the mission timer, and you're going to begin the mission. Now, there's obviously a couple more steps. So in the missions, when you're moving from location to location, so say you have your one mission card here and you have your objective over here. What are these locations here? These are going to be location cards. There's a deck of location cards you're going to be drawing as you explore, or again, depending on the mission type, they may be pre-placed. If you saw my video, they were pre-placed. But very simple, you're going to go ahead and just be drawing and placing. You're checking for locations, things like entrance costs, reinforcement, that is during a hostile turn. What are the different strengths of enemy units, hostiles, that will be reinforced and placed in that location? If you have cards in your hand, if you have the location cards that are part of the action deck to spend to place locations, that's when you're drawing from the deck and placing them. They may say something like, oh, 1 action to play. So you get the card in your hand. Okay, you get 1 action to play. Always draw for reinforcements. Soldiers gain +2 pen, and it's a structure. So there's a lot of keywords in the game. Keywords are important. Keywords are on locations. Keywords are on enemies. Keywords are on your cards. Keywords are a huge part of the game. Warfighter Vietnam comes with this booklet with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 pages of keywords, all just solid double column keywords that for you to learn and pay attention to while playing. You're placing the location cards. You're basically building out the map, right? The board itself. While you're doing that, you're going to end up dealing with hostiles, whether they're coming towards you, whether you are encountering them as you go. You're going to be drawing and placing hostiles. Now, the way it works in Warfighter Vietnam is hostiles are going to come out, generally speaking, on their unengaged side. So they have 2 sides. This side where you can just see the jungle in the background, and then here's where you can see what they actually are, the engaged side. So when it comes to most of the Warfighter games that I'm familiar with, you're basically going to have the hostile side, and then you're going to have a back would just maybe say hostiles, what type of hostiles, etc. But in Warfighter Vietnam, obviously, you had the jungle, you had hostiles that were avoiding direct contact with American forces quite often, so they're unengaged, they're on this side. Now, you can try to attack them. You can see they have reticles, which basically is abstracted hit points / number of people. Although they'll have a higher cover rating, which cover during combat, you have to roll against cover to defeat cover, and then you're also rolling to hit to cause actual damage. Now you can engage them though, so this is the unengaged side. You can see on the card, it'll always tell you, okay, engage. Perform a search in any location. So if you're able to perform a search, you can go ahead and engage it. You flip them over, boom, now you can see what it is. Now the numbers have changed, any attacks have changed, its cover's changed, what it's worth up here for experience points when it's defeated. All those numbers can change, but this is now an engage card, and that matters. That matters for your weapons, for hitting them, for different keywords and aspects as part of the game. Also, you have to worry about fade. So besides being unengaged or engaged, you have to worry about fade. So during the fade step of the hostile half of the turn, you're going to be checking for the fade. So for instance, here is unengaged. Fade or pay 1 body count. So you can discard a body count if you've earned that and you have one available to keep him on the map. Or if he's on this side, fade if there are no soldiers in their location. So if he happens to be where your soldiers are, he ain't going anywhere. If there are no soldiers, he's going to disappear into the jungle and he is now discarded. So depending on the type of game you're playing, type of mission, you may want to keep him around. You want to keep some around. You may not want to keep any of them around. You may want to say, you know what, I'm good. Let him fade away. I'm not even going to try to keep him. But if you have to accrue a high body count, you have to eliminate a lot of hostiles, you may have to start spending actions, doing special things to keep them from fading away. All right, so look, the enemies are out, locations are out, hostiles are out. You're working your way through locations. You're eliminating hostiles. The mission timer's going down. What are you trying to do at the very end? You are trying to survive, right? You're trying to not take wounds. You're trying to gather up body counts. You're trying to eliminate hostiles. And you're trying to meet the mission objectives. Mission objectives, like I said before, whether it's defending the objective over here, or it is getting a certain body count, it is escorting, right? So escorting something, conducting a rescue mission. Whatever it is, and there are a variety of mission types, you have to work your way through fighting against the enemies and fighting against time to get them done. Now, the game also has a campaign possibility, but that is an expansion. It does not come with the base game. The base game does not have a campaign. It's nice that it's there, and I'll talk about it more in my pros and cons. But as it is, this is just the base game. Now, I mentioned combat kind of offhand. Combat is simple. Simple enough anyway. So I mentioned sort of the rolling to attack, defeat cover, and then rolling to hit. So in Warfighter, you're rolling 2 dice. You're rolling a d6, which is defeat cover die, and you're rolling a d10, which is going to try to actually get a hit. So depending on, for example, this M60 machine gun, you can see range 0 is if you're in the same location. So if your player soldier with his little number happen to be in the same location as a hostile, that's range 0. Now, if the hostile was here and you were there, that's range 1, range 2, etc. Depending on the range, and some weapons may not go as that far. They may only go range 0, range 1. You have then what the numbers reload, which if you roll a 1 with a d10, causes a reload, so that hurts you. And then you have the kill number. You need to get that number, and again, depending on the weapon, depending on the range, it's going to change. That's the number you need to roll with the d10. So d6 to defeat cover. Remember, cover is the bottom on the card there, bottom corner. So say I have this M60 against this foot soldier. I'm rolling both dice. With that d6, I need to roll at least a 2 or higher to defeat the cover. And then with the d10, I need to roll, say he's in the same area, a 6 or higher. Now with this M60 machine gun, it's an auto. I actually get 3 rolls. So I get 3 dice to roll at the same time. So I get to roll 3 of the d10s and 1 of the d6. And you go ahead and roll. If you're successful, that would have been a reload. But then maybe 1, 2 hits. That would cause 2 killed in actions, EKIAs it's called, which this hostile only has 2 reticles, so it actually would have eliminated this hostile, which means I'd get 2 body count, because there's 2 in the reticle, and, well, 0 XP on this one. So, not too complicated, not too simple, it just works just fine. And once you're used to it, it works out very well. So, I think that's it for a good overview of the system. I do have that complete playthrough I mentioned videos if you want to kind of see a whole mission in action from beginning to end. Otherwise, let's go into my pros and cons, and as usual, cons first. Alright, my first issue with this game is the unfortunate lack of US soldiers in the core set. In fact, out of nearly 300 cards, and there's a lot of cards, you're only given 3 US player soldiers. So you can see these are all the player soldiers that come with the game. There's 6 of them. 3 of them are Arvin, right? So they are South Meat and the V's army. So if you look at just US player soldiers, these are the ones that have the hands of action cards, right? The kind of the core of your team. The game only comes with 3 of them. We've already looked at Niederlander because he was part of my playthrough video, and I also used him as the example earlier. Vasquez and Apone. So besides the aliens reference, which I love, the fact that you only get 3 of them, that's a big negative. Player soldiers are the core of your team. They're the ones that give you access to action cards. I almost can't believe that it was intentional that this core set for Warfighter Vietnam was released with only 3 to choose from. You are inevitably going to have to pick Arvin soldiers if you want any variety, right? Especially if you talk about replayability, you're going to have to branch out and put Arvin soldiers, combine them with US soldiers to form your teams. The hostile deck, it also feels a little skimpy. I just feel, there's some here for sure, but it just feels a little skimpy because you're going to see the same cards over and over as soon as you play a few missions. So I do wish that maybe, say, they had taken some of these action cards, this big stack of action cards, and traded, a couple dozen of them for a few more US player soldiers and some more hostiles in the core set. Again, we're not talking about the expansions, which there's a ton of them, like all Warfighter games, there's a ton of expansions. But just for the core set, it should be playable with variety as is. Second, while the keyword system, and that's what I'm talking about, the keyword system, it has its many merits, and the Warfighter system has worked well with it and under it. The weight of so many keywords at this point is starting to bog down the game a little bit. Looking at this keyword guide that comes with the game, I mentioned there are 12 pages of keywords, double-sided references, and each one of these, some are self-explanatory, some you're going to have to look up, you're going to have to try to remember. 12 pages of them. The Warfighter system itself, it's not overly complex, but you kind of would know that looking at all the keywords on the cards, whether it's player cards, equipment cards, hostiles, location cards, and some of them, again, are very easy to remember, but some you're going to have to stop and check to find the meaning of either newer ones or less used keywords. But even worse, is not just looking them up, but trying to remember their impact on the game. From turn to turn, I constantly catch myself having forgotten to apply a keyword at a location, on a hostile, during combat, and then second guessing my actions and how the mission has progressed, whether good or bad. Did I forget something? Oh, did I even play it right? I was filming my video and I was like, did I forget something? And I'm sure I did. I'm sure it'll be pointed out. For a game that like Warfighter, this system is designed like an action movie, having it be bogged down a little bit by the amount of keywords is kind of unfortunate. Now, there are some situational counters included with this game that do help, and that is definitely appreciated. But sometimes it just feels like there's maybe too many keywords and keyword combos for that to be 100% effective and for it to really keep the game from bogging down. Okay, that's it for the cons. On to the pros. First off, the game itself, very attractive. It's the best tactical display board in the Warfighter universe and really invokes the theme. The card backs are also attractive. You're looking at equipment cards and player soldiers and locations, and it's just everything about the cards and the back of the cards I think just looks really slick, really nice. The counters themselves look good as well. Overall, DVG has done a wonderful job improving the graphical design with Warfighter Vietnam. Second, I love the engaged/unengaged and the fade systems. So having hostile cards, that are double-sided, with the unengaged side showing a jungle, then the engaged side showing the hostile themselves. It's simple. It's not complex. It doesn't add, a lot of complexity to the rulebook, but it's a great way to show jungle warfare and the often difficult job it was to identify the enemy during the Vietnam War and to pin them down. Same thing with the fade mechanic. Not only do you have to actively attempt to identify and engage the enemy, you need to actively try and keep them pinned down, keep them on the board. If you don't, they fade away. This could be a good thing, but it could also be a bad thing if you need more body count to complete a mission. It's just a really clever mechanic that is easy on the rulebook, easy rules, yet adds a lot and is also very much a part of the Vietnam War. Third, I do like how replayable the game is. This applies to the Warfighter system in general, not just Warfighter Vietnam. But even with the base game and even with the limitations and cards, you have a ton of replayability. There are multiple mission types. When I say I think there's 8 different mission types, or maybe there's 4 different mission types, but then the search and destroy ones have multiple mission cards, and then depending on how you build out and equip your team, each one is going to play differently. Not just from each other, but each time you play. Even if you do the exact same team, because of how the randomness drawn of locations, random hostiles, it just feels like a sandbox type of game. And like I said, that's the Warfighter system itself. So outside of maybe Warfighter Fantasy, which plays the most differently out of all the Warfighter games I've played, Warfighter Vietnam is going to be very easy to pick up if you're a veteran of the system. And if Warfighter Vietnam is your first Warfighter game, once you learn it, it opens up the Warfighter universe of games for you to explore. Fourth, the combat in Warfighter is just fantastic to play out. It's just fun. It's simple, yet it has enough intricacies. The fact you're just rolling the 2 dice to defeat cover while also trying to get a hit, worrying about wounds and KIAs and suppression. It makes the combat deeper than just roll to hit and resolve. Yet it's not overly complex. It plays quick. It feels like an action game. Again, like my last point, this applies to all of Warfighter, not just Vietnam. But Vietnam definitely has the same wonderful combat experience that I'm used to with this system. All right, that's it for my pros and cons. Let's end with my final thoughts. Warfighter Vietnam is one of the better Warfighter games to date. And not only that, as it stands, it is definitely the best Warfighter game for new players. It has by far the best rulebook, thanks to the work of Ben Lattimore, and the art and graphical style is very attractive. We've come a long way since the first game in the series, Warfighter Modern. Simply put, Warfighter Vietnam is my favorite out of all the Warfighter games released so far. Is it perfect? Well, no. System issues such as the overbearing amount of keywords to remember and sometimes uneven mission difficulty, combined with game-specific issues such as the lack of US player soldiers in the base game, do mar the experience. But the core gameplay of Warfighter has been and remains addictive. Looking through the large variety of missions and selecting one, building out your team of soldiers, equipping them just how you want, then sending them out on missions, seeing how everything plays out, there are very few games like it. The production is a solid B+. I'll never love the card quality in DVG's games, so I do knock down the component quality a little bit because of that. But a Warfighter game has never had a more solid rulebook to teach you how to play the game. I recommend Warfighter Vietnam if you already love the Warfighter system and you want to expand your experiences. And I can also recommend it if you've always wanted to jump into the Warfighter ecosystem, but you never knew when or how. Just be aware you may find yourself eyeballing some of the expansions, specifically the US Soldier and VC NVA Hostiles expansions, sooner rather than later. Okay, thank you to everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed this review. Please let me know what you think of my video and this game in the comments below. And until next time, everyone, later.